Hello, Earth, and welcome aboard the Silverwind. I am Captain Tom, and I am joined by our intergalactic robot friend, Wilson, and he'll just be right over in that corner. Won't be able to hear him, which is a blessing for you guys. So, yeah, let's go ahead and make this happen here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Wilson took the initiative to go ahead and send us off to where we are going. So you know what? Let's go ahead and make sure we don't need to be this zoomed in right here. Okay, so we are going to be heading over to Uranus. We still got a few moons to explore over there, and this time we're going to be going to a moon called Ariel, right? So, and not named after the famous mermaid. Pretty sure it's named after some kind of Greek god or something like that. But yeah, so this will be pretty interesting. At the end of the show today, I will be talking about some space news, right? Stuff related to SpaceX and just kind of NASA in general. Some pretty exciting things going on. So yeah, let's see here. Got this beautiful music going on right here. Yeah, we'll keep it up while we're talking about Ariel today. Make sure we're locked into place here. It would be very unfortunate to drift around and lose where we're at. So let's see. There we go. Technically, everything is always moving out in space. Nothing is standing still. It's all just about relativity, right? So yes, here we go. Let's talk about Ariel a little bit. So I've got, well, in general, I guess before I pull up all this stuff here, actually, I might as well pull it up. Let's go ahead. Let's go. Is it right here? Should be. There we go. All right. So when we talk about Ariel, it's kind of, you know, for a moon, a lot of these moons have had a lot of you know, really big mysteries about them. Ariel is kind of has some mysteries about them, although there are some fairly okay natural explanations for them, but even then they do seem a little bit problematic at times. So one interesting thing about Ariel is that it seems quite young. It really lacks a lot of large impact craters on it. So this is going to be kind of a water world slash, I mean, there's rock as well. So it's a mixture between rock and ice. It doesn't seem that there's going to be any kind of, you know, ocean underneath its surface or anything like that. But yeah, so we've got these, I want to make sure I say it right. And so it's got a small amount of large impact craters, quite a few of the small ones though, so it looks young for that reason. It also has something called grabens. Now grabens are basically these, you know, when you could see a fault line, and that's because when there's tension on a fault and then the ground dips down and kind of forms this really big line. This is what they call a graben. We have them here on Earth. It's one of the ways that we can easily identify where a fault line is. And it also looks like Ariel has quite a few of these kind of intersecting all around the moon's surface. So what that basically says is that it's the large impact craters, you know, couldn't have been filled in by resurfacing. Sometimes these water worlds will get heated, and at least it's theorized they get heated and they resurface, and so you lose some of the craters from that. Well, since we have all these grabens and those didn't get resurfaced, so that can't be the reason there aren't large impact craters on it. Yeah, so it also shows that there has been some quite a bit of activity at this moon at some point in time, right? Let me make sure. We'll turn this music all the way down now. Perfect. You know, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Actually, let's get over to our eyes of the solar system, one of my favorite little tools here. Okay, so here we are. We've got the system right here. If you guys remember, this whole system is pretty unique. It's tilted basically almost at a 90-degree angle, and then we've got we went to Miranda yesterday. We got Ariel here today. We've had some flybys, but you can see NASA lacks some of the information on this. But here we go. You can actually kind of see what I'm talking about here with these grabens. It's a little, well, it'd be nice if it was in the light. I wonder if we can fast forward this. Let's try it. Here we go. Maybe that's too much. I want the light on it. I don't know. I was hoping we can try and get it to where the light was on the surface right here, but unfortunately we're not getting that. So anyways, you know, just pause it. That's fine. So we've got, yeah, let's see, here we go. We kind of zoom in there. Can you guys see that? It's very, very dark. You might not be able to. But anyways, from what we can see, it has quite a few indentations from some kind of geological activity with these fault lines. And yeah, keep in mind, before we ever went into space, before we ever sending satellites out here to take a look at these things, it was thought that all of these things would be old, cold, and dead, because the best thing for the theory of evolution, or the materialistic worldview, is that these things have been here for millions upon millions of years. And especially with an object this small, there shouldn't be much geological activity. And yeah, so we talked about before how being near a planet doesn't necessarily cleanly explain. Here we go. There it is. Cleanly explain how it's getting that energy. So yeah. So, anyways. Some thoughts on that. Of course, we have the theistic explanation, which would be it was put there, doesn't necessarily have to have been there for a very long time, and it's just been there for it's just made to look unique and be unique intentionally. So let's go ahead, let's go back to our, here we go, let's go back to the ship. There we go. So stick around for the end of the show. After we get done reading the story, we'll talk about some space news. There's a lot of exciting things going on. But before we get to all that, we're going to go to the reading room. We're going to talk about Genesis chapter 26. This is kind of like all of Isaac's main stories or adventures wrapped up in one chapter. He doesn't get a lot of time in the story. So we kind of glance over him pretty quickly, but today we'll get to kind of focus in on who he was, some of the things that he did, and some of the ups and downs with his stories. So with that, let's hit that transition, and I'll see you guys in the reading room. Oh, no, didn't hit it. There we go. All right, perfect. So yeah, and by the way, Julian, howdy, nice to see you guys. Let's go ahead and get into the reading here. So pretty sure, there we go. I had the book somewhere. So a little bit of, I guess, recap here. So last time we talked a little bit about Isaac, and kind of, we talked a little bit about him from Abraham's story as a child. He got married, and after getting married, they have a couple of kids. They have twins, and there's some prophetic stuff about these twins, being essentially in, what we call conflict with one another. And then we actually see a story of these two kids being quite young. This is Jacob and Esau, and Jacob tricks his older brother Esau. Even though they're twins, Esau was technically born first, so he's technically the oldest and would inherit all of the rights and privileges of the oldest brother, the oldest son. And Jacob wanted that inheritance, those rights of the firstborn. And we saw Esau had contempt for those rights, where he was willing to sell the rights of the firstborn to his younger brother for a bowl of soup because he was really hungry. So Jacob took advantage of this weakness of his brother. And so we'll see a little bit more about that next week. For now, make sure we're here. We're going to go back into looking at Isaac, some of his adventures, some of his life a little bit. And there's quite a bit to learn from this. It's actually a really interesting chapter, but there's about kind of 2-3-ish stories that it's all wrapped up in. So have a bit to go through. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Probably going to read probably good a little chunk right here. So yeah, let's get to one of these other views we got here. Oh yeah, look at that beautiful reading room. Yeah, let's go right there. All right, let's start this. A severe famine now struck the land, as it happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. There we go. All right, so it's just kind of a little nice little intro right there. We see that Isaac is being presented with a very similar problem and test that Abraham was presented with. Now, when Abraham was presented with this test, he kind of leaned on his own ability to try and, navigate his circumstances without trusting in God, right? So, I'm going to bring this mic up just a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Try to make that audio a little bit better. So Abraham, whenever there was a famine, he went down to Egypt, and then he also went to an Abimelech. Abimelech is a title, same way as like Pharaoh is a title or president is a title, so it's not necessarily going to be the same Abimelech, but it'd be like Abimelech's predecessor. So when he goes to these places, Abraham, he, gets scared because he's like, my wife is very good looking. People are going to kill me for her. So how about this? I will lie and just say she's my sister and not my wife, right? So that creates some problems. As a matter of fact, creates a lot of problems for Abraham down the road through Hagar and things like that. She was one of the Egyptian servants that he got from that situation. So now we have Isaac very much the same. Oh, now that is interesting. I just had the mic fall. Well then, give me about, let's say, a few seconds here and I'll get this set back up. Let's see, we'll do this real quick. Just a second. Well, then that's what happens when you have Wilson set the mic up. So anyways, okay, let's go ahead and hopefully that doesn't fall again. I'm going to have to look into that one. But yeah, I blame Wilson for the mic falling. Absolutely just some guy. I do as well. And so, yeah, let's go ahead, just jump right back into the reading here. Now, I think that's a pretty good intro. We'll read a good chunk so we kind of move forward with it since we have a lot of stories. So let's jump right into it. All right. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I hereby confirm that I will give all these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham, your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands. And through your descendants, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requests, commands, decrees, and instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. Okay, so we see that Isaac is speaking directly with God. And so it's very interesting. We have God basically, reconfirming the promise to Isaac, the same promise he gave to Abraham, that reassurance that, hey, I know you're going through a difficult time. Let me give you this reassurance. The promise hasn't changed. I haven't abandoned you. Just trust in me. So that's a nice thing for God to kind of just come in and help Isaac with. Additionally to this, he says that Abraham, he's doing this because Abraham obeyed all his decrees, instructions, and kind of goes on with that, even though we've seen Abraham falter a little bit on some of those things. And that's basically one of these kind of interesting things about the nature of God that's revealed later on in the text, where it talks about how when we are, we turn away from our wickedness to righteousness, God forgets all of our wickedness and counts us as righteous. And then vice versa. If you turn to wickedness, you'll forget all your past righteousness and only remember that wickedness. And so there's kind of a conversation here about how God is attributing this righteousness and worthiness to Abraham, even though it was, God, the one who made that covenant with splitting the animals, didn't have Abraham walk through it. Abraham faltered on some things when it came to faith, giving into fear of losing his life, and so lying and potentially putting both Pharaoh and Abimelech into a pretty bad situation had they actually gone through with the marriage and with Sarah. So God protected Sarah in those situations. God had to intervene a few times because of some of the mistakes that Abraham made. But we see Abraham's character at the end of all things with his story. He's very much 100% for God, an amazing man of faith with everything that happened when God told him to sacrifice Isaac, which is pretty incredible. Just a display where he kept on saying, God will provide a way, even though it seemed like God himself, I mean, this was not the part that seemed like, God himself was telling him to do this thing, to sacrifice his son, and yet he knew that God would fulfill his promise, that Isaac would be okay, even if he went through with the sacrifice, right? So he just kept saying to everyone, God will provide a way, an amazing man of faith. So that is what God is looking at. And so it's pretty cool to kind of see the nature of God, you know, it being very consistent, even all the way up in here in Genesis, throughout all the way through the New Testament of the story. So, yeah, so now he's given us instruction. Let's see what happens next. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife, Rebekah, he said, she is my sister. He was afraid to say, she is my wife. He thought, they will kill me to get to her, because she is so beautiful. But sometime later, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, she is obviously your wife. Why did you say she is my sister? Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me, Isaac replied. How could you do this to us? Abimelech exclaimed. One of my people might have easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin. Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation. Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death. All right. So this Abimelech seems pretty based. So we have this interesting parallel between him and his father Abraham, where he falls into kind of the same trap because of fear. And this conversation about fear is actually pretty interesting, because fear is a natural response to something that God has given us. It's a natural emotion. It helps us stay out of, or it helps us weigh our options and to try and make wise decisions when we're, you know, maybe running around doing something or come across something that's dangerous. It's like, okay, well, you know, that a healthy level of fear will help us to make smart decisions. Let's see here. Lisa, classic Wilson, of course. Awkward to say she's his sister when they get caught caressing her. Yeah, you know what is funny? Let's see here. I have the the King James version of that, and it's really funny how it words it. Let's see here. Let me give this to you guys, because this is pretty great. I laughed when I saw this. That was verse, should be over here. Okay. Yeah. See, obviously your wife. Let's see. Oh, what was the phrase? It was so funny. So some of the different translations have different, let's see. So showing endearments. Oh man, I can't find it. You know, it's one of those things, like it's right there, but of course, because I'm live, I can't find the thing right there. So, yeah. All right, maybe I'll run into it later. I'm pretty sure that was 7. It should be right here. Well, anyways, it's kind of funny the way that it talks about it. Maybe I'll run into it here in a minute. If I do, I'll share it with you guys. Oh yeah, here it is. Here we go. Finally, as I was about to get done with it, King James version says that Isaac was caught sporting with Rebekah. So it's just kind of some funny language. Sporting with. I was just sporting with her. So yeah, it's pretty funny. So he's basically caught in this lie, and it's through fear. But fear oftentimes, and we'll see this happen a lot with, you know, the people of God, the Israelites, how because of fear, it actually sets them up into giving in to sin, and doing something that they think that they can get away with. And a classic example of this is a little farther down the road in the story, but not that much farther down. And that's going to be where, you know, the famous story that everyone knows with the crossing of the Red Sea, and Pharaoh and his army are destroyed while the Israelites are able to escape Egypt and start making their way to the promised land by going through the desert. They get to Mount Sinai, and when Moses is up on the mountain for a little longer than they would like, and they think that maybe he's died, they get fearful and they think that they no longer have a leader. And because of that fear, they end up creating an idol to worship, and creates this whole mess, right? It's like they just saw all these wonderful things that God did, but because of fear, it made them extremely irrational in, in their response to what they were afraid of. So, and it was also an irrational fear, right? They could have just been patient and trusted God, but we see a similar thing here. Isaac isn't trusting God in this situation. He's using his own schemes and his own cleverness to try and avoid a fate that probably didn't even have to worry about anyways. I mean, Isaac is the son of Abraham. Abraham was a very famous person, and so, obviously has the attention of Abimelech. He has a big household, even though, he's got a lot of the wealth from his father. So he's not a nobody, right? Like, this would be, it is a bit unreasonable for him to give into this fear this way. But yeah, that's kind of, an interesting parallel there. Interesting concept about fear. So let's go ahead, let's keep moving on here. Let's get another big chunk down. And yeah, let's go ahead. I'll switch over to the far view here. And let's keep going. Of course, Wilson! Here we go. That may or may not stay. It's interesting dilemma that I have here today. Maybe. Okay, I'm just going to support it. How about that? We got this. We're going to make through it. Okay, so if you are reading along, it's going to be verse 12, and we'll just continue from there. All right, so when Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted. That's a lot. For the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and servants that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. Go somewhere else, he said, for you have become too powerful for us. All right. Interesting stuff there. So we see that God richly blesses Isaac 100 times. Like, you sow and you reap 100 times back from that. Makes him extremely wealthy. And now we have another concept, jealousy, right? They wanted what he had. Now this is during a famine, right? This is during some hard times. There's not a lot of resources. And here's Isaac accumulating a lot of it. And yeah, so we got a lot of people who were pretty upset with that. And so they end up, even though it's a drought, they're filling up his wells to essentially try and take that back away from him, trying to diminish his wealth somehow. So that's kind of an interesting thing to do, a very malicious thing to do. And this is stuff that people fought wars over. I mean, wars are primarily fought over resources and things like that. So this is something that, Isaac he's being very wealthy, has a large household, he has a lot of servants, he definitely has plenty of warriors. He could easily justify, conflict and violence to essentially protect his territory, protect his father's wells, and things like that, right? That option is on the table, and most people would go with that option, right? You could easily say, hey, if you're filling in my wells, like you're threatening my livelihood, that's a threat against me and my household. So let's see what his response actually is. But I think it's nice to understand what his options are before kind of reading this next part here. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Let's see here. Oh yeah, and Abimelech drove him out because he was just getting too rich, too powerful from it. All right, so picking up in 17, Isaac moved away from the Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his father had dug, which the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. Isaac's servants also dug in Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water. But then the shepherds from Gerar came and claimed the spring. This is our water, they said, and they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Isaac, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. This time, there was no dispute over it, so Isaac named the place Rehoboth, which means open space. For he said, "At last the Lord has created enough space for us to prosper in this land." From there, Isaac moved to Beersheba, where the Lord appeared to him on the night of his arrival. I think we'll pause right there. All right, perfect. So, okay, so we've got kind of a whole bunch of shenanigans going on here. So not only were they filling in his wells, which are fighting words, right? I mean, that's not just fighting words, fighting actions, basically. Trying to take away his resources during a famine, during a drought, of all times to be doing this, right? And then he goes and starts digging new wells. He starts trying to restore some of the wells his father had dug, giving them back the names that his father had given him, showing reverence to his dad and, and his legacy. And then, of course, when he digs these new wells, these people from Gerar are coming out and claiming them. Hey, that's ours, creating disputes, even though they're not even the ones who dug them, right? So Isaac's ended up putting in all the work. Once again, each time these things happen, he could fight back. He could easily, these are poorer people, probably much weaker than him. It seems like they're trying to instigate a fight with him. And this is actually a real test for Isaac, but we see that he failed an earlier test, right, when he had fear. But we now see Isaac doing some pretty upright stuff, being a really good peacemaker, because he just gives it to him, right? These wicked people are coming and essentially trying to provoke him. And he's literally turning the other cheek. This is what that looks like in the Bible. He says, okay, fine. If you guys are going to argue over it, you're going to try and fight me over this, then just have it, right? And it could also be that because it's a time of drought, these are poor people and they saw that this was maybe an opportunity where they could secure some resources for themselves because they were struggling. That might be an element to the story. We don't really know, but it's kind of interesting to ponder on the possibilities of that. So for whatever reason, Isaac takes the high road, so to speak, does the peacemaker thing to do, and goes and digs more wells until he finally gets farther enough away from these people to where they don't chase him down on the third well that he digs. And yeah, so now we have the Lord coming to him. And just imagine this as well. Imagine if he did start some kind of fight and there was a big war started over this and a lot of violence and bloodshed and crazy stuff going on. It'd be a very different story, and God might have a very different thing to say to Isaac than what he says right here. So we kind of see this period of testing for Isaac, and now we get to see what God has to say in response to that. So yeah, let's go back to it. All right. The Lord appeared to Isaac. "I am the God of your father Abraham," he said. "Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you. I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant." Then Isaac built an altar there and worshiped the Lord. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. This Isaac guy, he's getting blessed left and right. And, the Bible doesn't say this directly. The story doesn't say it directly, but I think it's implied that because he's doing the right thing and has the right response with his neighbors here, that he's, God is just continuing to bless him even more, right? Even though he made a mistake earlier, God is willing to move past that and move forward, which I think is pretty nice, right? It definitely doesn't picture... oftentimes you'll hear people talk about the God of the Old Testament. He's just this tyrant. He's easily upset, and he'll step on you for doing the smallest little thing. But we see God here being very gracious, very slow to anger, and having a lot of mercy and grace towards Isaac, Abraham, and everything like that. So yeah, I think it's nice to see that in reality, these stories, God is very patient and very kind. So let's get the next part here. We got another little good chunk to go through because he's not done dealing with his neighbors. So after all of these shenanigans, all the stress that these people from Gerar had put him through, we'll see kind of the result of this, all this peacemaking that he did, of turning the other cheek. One day, King Abimelech came from Gerar with his advisor, Ahuzath, and also Phicol, his army commander. "Why have you come here?" Isaac asked. "You obviously hate me since you kicked me off your land." They replied, "We can plainly see that the Lord is with you, so we want to enter into a sworn treaty with you. Let's make a covenant. Swear that you will not harm us just as we have never troubled you." That's funny. "We have always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you." All right, I gotta pause there. I have to pause there. This is the framing, right? The framing is so funny. So King Abimelech, now he may have not been sending the people out to go filling up the wells or anything like that. He may not have anything to do with that. And so, okay, so that's fair. And he did send Isaac away, peacefully. He said, "Hey, please just leave, didn't attack him or anything." So we'll give him credit up to that point. But the over framing of like, "Hey, we've done nothing to even stress you out," it's like, that's not true at all, right? So he's here. He wants a treaty. Clearly fears Isaac. Maybe he's actually heard of some of the stuff that's been going down, and he's like, you know what, maybe I need to go and try and right these wrongs, because what if Isaac, continuing to grow in his household and grow in strength, and clearly the Lord is with him, what if he turns on us in anger, right? Because we've done plenty of things to him to make him upset. So trying to placate potentially a potential opponent, stronger opponent one day. So anyways, this seems very strategic. So he's going over here and he's trying to offer some peace, even though he exaggerates their side a little bit. So it's kind of funny. So let's go ahead and keep reading. All right. Okay, let's see. Make sure we get the last part. "And now look, the Lord has blessed you." So Isaac prepared a covenant feast to celebrate the treaty, and they ate and drank together. Early the next morning, they each took a solemn oath not to intervene with each other. Then Isaac sent them home again, and they left him in peace. That very day, Isaac's servants came and told him about a new well they had dug. "We found water," they exclaimed. So Isaac named the well Sheba, which means oath. And to this day, the town that grew up there is called Beersheba, which means well of the oath. All right, we're going to switch a little bit right here. Actually, if we're going to do that, we might as well recap on this. There's very little left of this story. It's going to switch focus to Esau a little bit, but kind of recapping on this, it's just kind of nice to see that, of all the trouble he went through, there was actually peace in the end with his neighbors, because he was doing the right thing, and he was, turning the other cheek and continuing to put in the work and trusting God. And that's a big part of the story. He put his faith in God, trusted in him. God continued to bless him. God is the one who took care of him, even though there was a famine going on at this time. So running around having to dig more and more wells. It's like you never know what you're going to find. They keep finding more and more stuff here. So really good in him for that. They got this treaty of peace, so he can just live in peace in this land. It's very, very nice. Now, if those people show up again and start filling up wells, and be like, "Hey, listen, your king made peace with me. You don't want to have troubles with him," right? So, and of course, I think this is an additional blessing by God, which is to make peace with the people around him. So, kind of something to think about there. So now we're going to switch back over, because we're going to be talking a lot about the brothers next week and kind of moving forward. So a lot of the focus is going to switch from Isaac to Jacob after this. And that's just because, this is really all that the Bible really has to say about Isaac. It kind of gives him this whole real quick, trial, and showing his faith, showing how he was blessed, and he lives a long life. We just don't get to see a lot of it. So we'll be moving on to Jacob and Isaac, and with that, you're going to read the last couple of verses here so we can kind of see some framing for how this story is going to be going with them. All right. At the age of 40, Esau married 2 Hittite wives. Judith, the daughter of Beri, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon. Don't think it's the same Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah. Oof. Okay. So we've seen Esau screwing up a lot here. We've seen Esau showing contempt for his birthright, selling it for a bowl of soup. And now we're seeing that he married 2 women from the Canaanites, which was a big no-no. I mean, Abraham spent a lot of effort or made a really big deal about, hey, Isaac, you need to marry someone that's within the family. You don't marry one of these local women, right? And there were reasons for that. And then we see Esau doesn't care, right? Esau is chasing after whatever his heart desires. And in this case, it's desiring two local women. So that's what he's going to do. And these women, very poetically, are making a, the lives of, Rebecca and Isaac very difficult, right? So maybe they're complaining a lot. Maybe it's just two very different cultures, not mixing well. And so, yeah, so it's kind of, painting more of a picture of Esau here. Now, one of the tensions of this story is that his parents, like Jacob and Esau's parents, so that would be Isaac and Rebecca, don't know about, at least there's no indication in the story that they know anything about this thing that happened between Jacob and Esau. So they don't know that Jacob has, bought the rights of the firstborn from Esau. So they're going to go ahead and try to give those rights to Esau, even though he doesn't deserve them, even though he's technically sold them. And he's going to act like he didn't really remember that he did that either. So we'll see what happens next. With that, we're going to go ahead and go back to the front of the ship and talk about some space news. So if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to put them in the chat. If you're not watching live, you can put in the comments below. Love to engage with you guys there. And with that, let's go to the front of the ship. And maybe I can fix this mic while we're doing it. Okay, we are back, and yes, I did the best I could with the mic, so we'll see what happens with it. Okay, so with that, I promised you guys some space news. We got some pretty interesting things going on, and we will talk about that as we are traveling back to Earth. So let me go ahead and make sure that we can get that going correctly here. That should do it. All right, everyone say bye to Ariel. See you later. All right, hopefully we end up back at Earth. Hopefully the mic is the only thing that broke today. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about some of these space facts. Let's see. Matter of fact, I'll just show it to you because a lot of this is going to be on X. Yeah. So first thing, just really interesting here. Let me go ahead. Maybe we should land at Earth first. I'll show you guys once we get to the planet. I just start talking about it now. So we have something called the Europa Clipper. Now, if you remember, Europa is one of the moons of Jupiter, and it's one of the moons that could potentially have life. And the reason for that is that even though the outer shell of it is solid ice, at least 10 to 15 miles thick of ice, it's believed that underneath that is a warm ocean, which is pretty cool stuff. And not only is there a warm ocean underneath it, make sure, there we go, we don't want to fall down to Earth. Okay, not only is there a warm ocean underneath it, there's also beneath that ocean, it's believed that it has a actual like rock ocean bed, right? So it's not just an ocean that goes all the way down to the core, which would be problematic for life. So they believe that, hey, there's a lot of elements here that could be, suitable for life to be in. It would be really interesting to see, both from a materialistic perspective and a theistic perspective, if there is in fact life of some kind on one of these distant moons. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you guys. Let's see. I'll throw it up here on the screen here. Yeah. Look at that. Here we are on X. Perfect. So we've got, let's see here. I'll show you guys. That's what it would look like. So basically this is going to be, it looks like a satellite, and it's going to basically fly multiple times past Europa as close as possible. It's not going to land there, but what it's going to do is it's going to try and capture. So you see this right here. This is basically kind of representing like these geysers of water that are shooting out from the crust of this moon. And so they're going to try and capture some of that ice particles coming out from it, because that clearly came from a liquid water source. And then try to analyze it, see if they can find bacteria or what kind of elements is this underwater or under ice, ocean made of. So yeah, this is gonna be pretty interesting. Let's see here. We've got some more stuff with this. I thought I saw something else here. Yeah. That's kind of cool right here. There's something that showed the breakdown of it. Let's see. Maybe it's a lot further down than I thought. Well, anyways, yeah, so that's gonna be something. This was supposed to launch this month, but it's got pushed back. That's why you got a lot of sad faces and stuff. It got pushed back because of the hurricane that's happening right now. This whole setup is in Florida, so we're just kind of be on this one right here. So that's what it looks like. It has all these dark lines. Those dark lines are basically the cracks in the crust of this ice, and the salt and other elements coming out and kind of staining the surface of this moon. So it should be really interesting to see when they actually get this launched. SpaceX is helping to launch this, so it'll be pretty nice to get some results from that. And that should briefly, real quick. Here we go. Hold up. Let's not have the volume there. Yeah, we don't need the volume. Can we do this? Look at that. Okay, it's actually pretty good. So yeah, there's the moon we've been talking about. Here we go. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. So this is what they believe is going on here. So it has that thin layer of ice, has this actual earth or rocky ocean floor, and this liquid ocean underneath it. This is pretty amazing. If that's all true, obviously there wouldn't be geysers shooting out of the crust of the ice. And this is the only moon that's like this. I believe Enceladus is the other moon that's like this. And so there wouldn't be geysers and that sort of thing coming out if there wasn't liquid water underneath it. So that's kind of a really cool, thing that we could potentially discover in our solar system. Now, me and Wilson could go over there and try to swoop some of it up, but we don't want to steal the glory from NASA. They've been working on this for a very long time. And the other thing I want to share with you guys, we got this right here. So we have let me expand this, because this is, that was loud. That was loud. Sorry about that. So this right here, so SpaceX has their 5th kind of flight test here, where they're trying to land this big old engine that normally comes off these rockets and actually catch the thing before it hits the ground. So instead of just losing it in the ocean, and they wouldn't lose it, of course, they'd go out there and fish it out of the water, but it takes a long time to recover these. And if they're able to just catch it right there at the landing pad, it would save a lot of time to be able to basically send another rocket into space. So this is actually pretty brilliant. This is supposed to happen, this test is supposed to happen on Sunday, this Sunday. I have to double check what that date is going to be, but if you're watching this live, it's going to be soon, so you should definitely check this out. I'm pretty sure that SpaceX on X will give you plenty of information about it. That's where I'm kind of following a lot of information with it. See if we got anything else going on here. So yeah, just a lot of cool resources with this stuff. So basically you can see right here, this is the top part of the rocket. This part right here is going to detach and fall back down. Well, this is going to keep on doing its thing on its mission. And then yeah, the whole test here, at least the big part of the test that's pretty amazing, is trying to catch this whole rocket pod assembly on the back of it. Oh yeah, here we go. October 13th, right? October 13th. So hopefully, no, I don't know where this is exactly. Hopefully it's not ruined by the weather that's going on, the hurricane stuff. Doesn't seem to be though. So yeah, looking forward to that. The 5th flight test by Starship's flight test. So flight test. There we go. Yeah. So let's see here. I think we can come back over here. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. So I think I'm going to do that for now on. Share with you guys what's been going on with space news in the week between each episode at the end of it. So we have a little something to talk about with that. Make sure when I do this, I lose you guys on your chat here. Here we go. Okay, what are your thoughts on the fact that we temporarily have 2 moons current, and what are some of the things about the significant or signifying end times and the coming of Christ again? You know, I would have to actually, that's a fantastic question, Lisa, as far as what that has to do with signifying end times. From what I've read in the book of Revelation, there's really nothing that says there's going to be two moons. You know, maybe in the book of Daniel, it says something about two celestial bodies. I have to double check that one. So, but as far as I know, I haven't come across anything that says that that's like a sign of the end times or anything. It does talk about like, you know, a third of the moon, a third of the ocean, stuff like that, you know, turning red or being blotted out. So that's kind of you know, I'm not sure if that would be necessarily directly related to the two moon thing. And it's kind of, it's just a little satellite. So basically we caught a, you know, this would be good. How about this? How about this? This is what we have this for. Yeah. You know what? Let me bring it up here. We're going to go back to the eyes of the solar system and show you all the things that are kind of around Earth. Let's see. I had to restart it because I paused it after messing up the dates and everything. All right, let's go back to that. Yeah. Look at this. So if we were to, where's Earth right here? Let's go to Earth. Yeah, I don't even know about Earth. Okay, well, there's all kinds of stuff going around here. Now, I don't think we're going to see the other moon necessarily. See here, where is our moon, by the way? There it is. Got all kinds of things going around here. So this is like a legit moon, but technically if we were to capture anything like a rock the size of a bus or something like that, that would technically qualify under the definition of a moon. But what it's going to do here is, let's see here. Kind of a good visual here. Oh, here we go. I caught a satellite. All right. Well, I can't even catch the Earth right now. Oh my gosh, we got so many things around this. This is pretty cool. Like, you guys should play around with this. It's like a free thing online that you can look at. So basically what's going to happen is a asteroid is going to come in. It's going to basically get caught in our gravitational field. It's going to loop around and then kind of get ejected. So it's not even going to technically do a full, you know, rotation or orbit around the Earth. But technically, it's kind of fun to say we have a temporary second moon, and then it's going to continue to orbit the sun on its normal trajectory. So for something to get that close and kind of swing around us like that is pretty fun stuff. But that's basically what we're looking at. It's interesting that we got these things out here as well with telescope and stuff. It's just brilliant how we've been able to put these things out here, and then we could track them as well. And there's our moon. So yeah, there it is. There's our solar system. This is, you know, a fun little scale here. We got Uranus way over there. And let's you know, since we were talking about Enceladus, let's go look at it. Let's go look at, where are you? Where did you go? Not Enceladus. Enceladus is around Saturn. It's Europa. There we go. Look at that beauty. These dark lines are what we're talking about. We're saying that this is potential evidence of liquid water bursting out from the icy crust and just kind of staining the surface. It's also extremely smooth. We talked about this. We've been here before. It's very, very smooth, which means there's a lot of resurfacing going on, which is also another indication that there is a liquid ocean, you know, just a few miles beneath the icy crust here. And that's where, you know, the satellite's going. It's going to be taking a look at this. Hopefully it gets launched soon. It's supposed to get launched this month. We'll see when it will get launched. I'm sure that Florida will have to get cleaned up a little bit before they can do that. So anyways, go back to the ship here. This has been fun. I love talking about this stuff. But I will definitely look more into the two moons as an indication of end times and that sort of thing. See here. Yeah, oh yeah. And everyone's always talking about end times. They've been talking about end times since, you know, forever. I mean, it's like every culture, you know, was talking about Christianity, talking about end times, or Christians talking about end times. Technically, the first generations of Christians really believed that Christ, you know, would or could come back while they were still alive on Earth, right? So there's just been a kind of a waiting and prediction and pointing at things in Scripture related to that. One thing that's related to that, by the way, is that we can pull up the Scripture next time, but Jesus talks about how a lot of like people are going to be talking about the weather a lot. There's going to be a lot of earthquakes and big major natural disasters happening. That's going to have a lot of people's attention, and these are not the end times yet, but the growing pains towards that. So anyways, the Bible tries to make it, especially the New Testament, tries to make it intentionally vague on when it's supposed to happen, just because the explanation is, if you are always waiting for the master to come home, you're always going to be working every day and making sure everything is good. But if you know he's not going to be home until a year from now, well, you're just going to party it up and then clean everything up at the last minute, right? And it's like, no, he wants you to keep working, understands human nature, wants people to always be ready and always be doing a good job as far as the job of what Christianity is supposed to be about. So with that, we'll go ahead and end this with our nice little outro. So thank you guys for stopping by with the show. Please hit that like, that subscribe, share the show with someone. We have our Friday show still being cooked. It's in the works. I got essentially the layout of the story that we're going to be reading with the second part to Journey to the West. I got some things I'm trying to do to spruce up the show a little bit. Trying to get some art done that will kind of liven up some of the storytelling from something like that, because it's such a long storytelling, usually like an hour and a half, something like that. So it'd be nice to have some visual cues on who's talking and what they look like to a book accurate sense without having to do any copyright stuff. So got that going on, as well as fun adventure kind of being cooked up with it. So keep watching out for news regarding that, but it is in the works. And with that, be here every single Wednesday and we will do this show. So with that, I will go ahead and we'll hit that outro, Wilson. I'll catch you guys next time.
In the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through?